Thank you so much. I have the great honor for the last 10 minutes of representing our office in a practitioner sense at the request of our senior director. Thank you so much, Darla and Sarah. It's so wonderful to have this opportunity to be with you all today in person and talk about the things that we do, specifically from a practitioner's perspective. And I'm sure those of you who engaged in Darla's activity yesterday in the story circles understand how being a community trainer of the trainer, facilitator, hands-on approach is so imperative to the work that we do. Just personally, in the last 2 years, I have been in Croatia on a global governance fellowship, and this year in Tunisia in an alumni event for changemakers in Africa where story circles were utilized. And they were, in both of those events, considered to be one of the most fundamental aspects of intercultural exchange at that event. So your work is everywhere, Darla. So I will be talking about the third tripod in our intercultural UNESCO Chair in Intercultural Competencies. We had Prof. Amanda talking about gender and Prof. Guy talking about the climate change, and I will be looking a little bit at peace building and peace education. And as we all know, UNESCO, one of the main tenets and ethos of the UNESCO the work that it does is looking at creating the new social contract, specifically with regards to education, diversity, and understanding. And the work that we do in terms of this, and both of the chairs that Stellenbosch University now holds in, and what we'll be celebrating in the next 2 days, is looking at literacy development within that. And what Dr. Dierdorf spoke about a little bit earlier is in terms of competency, we also consider literacy to be the building blocks of the knowledge that we utilize to develop those competencies. And in terms of intercultural competencies, critical diversity literacies, and futures literacy, it's an imperative understanding of what are the differences that we allow to make a difference. When we talk about intercultural competencies, we talk about diversity studies, we talk about coming together to look at the very real problems that we all face from different contexts. What are the differences that are allowed to make a difference? And I would like to talk about 2 different ways in which we have utilized these. One of them is a personal example. As a practitioner, a few years ago, I was a member of a task force employed to create anti-racism toolkits and workshop dialogue guides for UNDP leadership. And in the year that we created these guides, some of them focused on climate justice and marginalized communities, another one on colorism, ethnic discrimination and nationalism, racism, co-conspirators. The main feedback that we received from UNDP leadership was that the building blocks of intercultural competency development that we put into these toolkits were the most helpful to them. And so when we look at main leadership within United Nations DP and presumably other tenets of leadership, right down to primary school, high school, curricula, those building blocks of intercultural competency development are vital to the understanding of development, to the understanding of peace building, to the understanding of every facet of current social issues from different contexts that create our platform of social justice. And so when we work within Stellenbosch, Sapporo was my last university, Stellenbosch University International, with the curriculum that we develop, with the work that we do, we very much look at how to utilize these building blocks, these tenets of the new development for a social impact with regards to peace, with regards to gender equality, with regards to climate change, through an intercultural understanding. And one of the forefronts of intercultural education that we look at when we consider how intercultural competencies are developed through literacy development is that it allows us to narrow the gaps of understanding, widen our opportunities to engage with empathy, and understand who is represented. And I think that when we look at what Professor Midgley was saying with regards to Anthropocene ethics and who is encouraged to be a part of developing how we approach that. Professor Goos, when she spoke about necropolitical discourses and the development of which groups of people are considered grievable and ungrievable in specific circumstances, that all comes down to an intercultural understanding of peace building. And one of the main reasons we are so excited to host this intercultural competency chair within the international office is that we have a very specific meeting place of interculturalism, multidiversity, and education. And the ability that we have to engage with many people and engage with students, curricula, organizations, institutions on the very basic building blocks of mutual understanding. Now alongside Dr. Deerdorf and Professor Howie as the co-chairs of this UNESCO Chair in Intercultural Competencies, will really allow us, as Professor Klopper alluded to, really build a future for Africa with Africans that encompasses as many different people as possible. Because with intercultural competencies and the understanding of diversity, one of the basic tenets of that is widening our scope to include more people in a perceived future. And so we are really excited as practitioners of all of this to be able to work alongside our esteemed faculty and colleagues and all of the students and staff members that come through our offices and really try to uphold the intercultural competencies ethos to promote peace building. So thank you very much for this opportunity. Thank you, Sarah.